Welcome to Designing a Simple Game Box with VCarve. Hi, I'm Alex Duffey. I am a content creator and custom design CNC shop here in Vancouver, Washington. I've been woodworking for the last 7 years, and for the last 3 years running my business. I do about 25 to 30 markets on average every single year, and I also work with 2 retail partners designing and creating their gift items for their stores. Using VCarve, I'm going to show you how we're going to go ahead and create a custom game box for a bunch of items that you can then put together and sell as a item at a retail store or at a craft fair, or just for yourself for travel. So first of all, there's a few things that I recommend that we need to get started. First of all is a pair of digital calipers. Now you can use a regular set of calipers, however, there's a lot of human error involved with that. I do recommend a pair of digital calipers that then you can change the measurements on and are just really easy for you to go ahead and get the perfect measurement with. Next, you'll need your game pieces. So in my case, I'm gonna go ahead and I grabbed off of an online retailer a set of dominoes. I've got a deck of cards. I also have 6 dice, a set of cribbage pieces, and a whiteboard eraser. And we'll talk more about this in a little bit. But now we need a piece of wood to go ahead and cut out. Now, what I'm using is Bamcore. Now, this is a plywood material. It is made of bamboo. It is a 3-ply, and what this is, I really like this material because it's very stable, it's dense. It comes pre-milled at 3/4 of an inch, so a standard size. All you need to do is finish sand it, which is great because it does come already sanded to 120 grit, and it's really ready to go right on your CNC. So this is a 12 by 24 piece or sized piece, and it is the zebra coloring, which is this really pretty blonde and walnut colored coloring for the wood. And in the middle, you have the blonde section of the bamboo as well. And then on the bottom, the same zebra coloring. It creates a really nice look for the custom game box that you're going to be creating, and cost effective. It does add a little bit of a cost, but when you're doing at bulk and selling them for a good price, the cost of this material outweighs the time it takes to mill your own material. So let's go ahead and get to VCarve and start designing our box. All right, now we're on the computer and we're inside of VCarve. So we're gonna go ahead and open up a new file. So file new, and then we're going to go ahead and enter in our dimensions. So in this case, I'm going to enter in the whole piece of the BAMX material, which is the 24 by 12 by 0.75 in inches. I'm going to go ahead and leave my datum position over in the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK to go ahead and create our file. Now, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is save the file. And I'm going to go ahead and just save it to my desktop. And I'm going to save it as game box. That way, we're going to be able to easily just save our file as we keep going. Now, we need to know the size of the material or the game pieces that we're using for this. So using our digital set of calipers, we're going to go ahead and measure the game pieces that we have for this box. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and measure our dice that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it into my digital calipers and go ahead and mark the size. Now that's going to be 0.62, going to be 4.45. Come over here and measure, and that is 3.1 inches, 3.55 in the length. Now that we have the measurements, we're ready to go ahead and start designing. Now I'm going to design from the inside out. So first I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle for each one of the items that we're going to be putting inside of this game box. So first of all, I'm going to go up to the rectangle tool, and we're going to start with the cards. So my width for these are 2.4.
by my height is 3.7. Now, these are different than the numbers I read to you just a moment ago because I added about 1/10 of an inch around on each side for the cards or the game pieces, so you can get your finger in there to move them, or they can, as the wood expands and contracts throughout the season, you've got some movement availability there. So we're going to go ahead, now that we have that sizing, I'm just going to pop that in right there. Now, next we're going to do the dominoes, of which the width was 3.2 and my height was 5.6. So we'll just pop that in right there. The dice were 0.6. And by 0.6, and we're going to do 6 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just in random locations for the moment. And now we're going to go ahead and do our cribbage pieces, which were, we're going to do for the width on those, we're going to do 0.5, and then it was 1.5. So that was the size of one piece. However, because we're going to be doing 4 pieces in there, I'm basically going to make that a 1x2 rectangle to give plenty of space in there for those. So we've got that. Now we have our dry erase marker, which was a size or a width of 0.6, and the length of it was 4.6. And we'll just pop that in right there. Okay, so now we have our pieces for the game box that we're going to be creating. So now we need to organize them in a way that kind of just makes sense and so that they fit. So first of all, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to drop the dominoes right there. I'm going to take our cards and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and I'm going to just line it up right there with our pieces. Next, we have our cribbage pieces, which I could put in here, but I really like the idea of putting the dice in here. And you know what? I didn't really need to create those 6, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them. And I'm going to come up over here and I'm just going to create my first one and I'm going to move it into place. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and arrow over like that. I'm going to kind of eyeball the sizing. And you know what? To make it look really nice and for my design aspect here, I'm going to go ahead and then go ahead and center that there. We'll highlight all that. We'll copy, paste it so that they look exactly the same. And then we'll come down there to like that. Then I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to move it down just so that spacing is basically equal. So there we go. Now we have a nice rectangle in that aspect, or a square. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and place our box right there. And then I'll go ahead and place our cribbage board or cribbage pieces. Now, you know what I'm going to do, because I think we could easily do it, is I'm going to delete that and I'm going to come over here to our piece. First of all, I'm going to move this up so that it's in line. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this so that is in line with our piece there. And then I'm going to expand it out so that there's room for those cribbage pieces. And instead of having a box for all of them, now I've got a box for that. And it looks a little bit nicer in that way versus having another box over to the side. So now this is our design from the inside out. Now we're going to go ahead and create our outside box. But first, my closing method that I'm going to do is I'm going to be using magnets for this. Now my magnets that I have are a 3/10 of an inch deep, and they are 0.4 inches in diameter. So first of all, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle. And let's say I'm going to start there. And we'll go out to sizing wise, I kind of like it like that. We'll make that equal. There we go. And to do all this, I'm just going to highlight all of it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go ahead and do group so that this is a group. So I know that my spacing is exactly right. And then I'm going to go ahead and align to the selection just so that I know that that is perfectly in center. Now, the reason what I'm doing is I'm creating a barrier. This isn't going to be the outside of my box. This is going to be the outside points of where my magnets are going to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and come up and do my draw circle. I'm going to come over here and do 0.4, which is the size of my magnets. And then I'm just going to come over into the corner and I'm going to plop these guys right into the corner like that. And that way they're centered and they're equal spaced and I have the same spacing around. I'll go ahead and delete that so that way I now know where those are. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring that back and this time I'm going to come up here. I'm going to look at my sizing for it by selecting it and opening it up and I can see where my box is. So I'm going to go ahead and create the width to, let's go ahead and do 10 and my height is going to be 8. So we're going to do a 10 by 8 box. And then again, I'm going to select these. I'm going to select my, oops, I didn't hit Control and not Shift. So I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to regroup them so that they're a group. And then I'll go ahead and select my outer box. And we're going to go ahead and align to selection. And there we go. Now I've got our box on one side. Now I need the box on the other side for this whole game box set. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of move this over. I'm going to do it like that. So that way, once we cut it out, I still have this other material left over. I can cut off the carcass of the cutout. And then, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to repaste it. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and move it on over so it's on the other side, just like that. So now I know I have 2 duplicates, but the reason why I did this is because I want to know where these spots are, because now I'm going to go ahead and create another box, basically the exact size of these. I'm going to close that. Now I'm going to select the, I'm going to select this. I'm going to ungroup this group that was the duplicate because I want to keep these magnets in those locations. I'm going to go ahead and delete that group, which was that. And now I have the perfect box for the other side to add a little bit of depth there. So here is what we're doing. We're going to create, now we're going to create a cribbage board inside this side of the box. And to do that, I need a couple of different things. First of all, I'm going to create a line. And I'm going to start from here to here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to create the exact same thing. So I'm just going to copy both of these. We're going to paste it. We're going to move it on over. Put them right in that spot. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. The reason why we're creating these lines is we're creating basically the track that the cribbage board is going to go along. And you'll see how we do that in just a moment. Now I know this size isn't going to fit a full cribbage board in it, so we're going to do a half cribbage board. A half cribbage board is 60 holes. Now for the we need 1 extra hole for the finish and 2 or 4 extra holes for the beginning section for a 2-player game. So that means we need 65 holes in total. 65 divided by these 4 are going to be 16.25. So what we're going to do is on this side, control. Sorry. First, what I need to do is go ahead and create a circle. My circle for this is going to be 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch, which is the size of a peg hole that you need for a cribbage. And I'm going to go ahead and select it right there. So now what I need to do, because I know I need 16 in this side, but I'm going to do actually 17 on this one because it's going to have our extra pieces. So that way I can do 16 along all of these guys. So we're going to go ahead and do 17. So I'm going to go ahead and select our line. I'm going to make sure our circle is still selected. And then I'm going to come down to the offset and layer, and I'm going to do copy vectors or copy along vectors. I'm going to go ahead and select copy object. And then my number of copies is going to be 17. And I'm going to go ahead and leave all the other sections as is. And I'm just going to go ahead and click copy. So now I know that there's a duplicate here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to move it over to our other one. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing and copy. So now I've got holes for the first layer line. Now I'm going to come over here to this guy right here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I know there's a lot of extra clicks. I could do it so that it doesn't create a new piece. I like doing it this way so I know that I've got the right number consistently and I'm not copying one thing. It's just a way I do things. Okay, so if I go ahead and delete these lines now, remember I had extras that I needed. And the reason why I did that is because we're going to do a start and finish. So this corner is going to be our start. So what I'm going to do is actually move these two closer together so that way you can kind of see where the start is. And then I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to move that right in the middle. So now we have our start, and then we have 60, which is a half game, and a finish. So it's pretty easy. If you want to do a full game, you can go around twice. So now I have our cribbage board built into one side as well. And then we have this blank empty space here. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to be a great area that you can tell customers this is where they can roll their dice. You can include, what we're going to do is include a whiteboard piece of paper that will fit into this. It's going to have Yahtzee on one side, and it's going to be a blank space on the other, which will allow them to keep score for cribbage or for card games or for dominoes or so on. So it's going to be a great option for them to do have a ton of different games all in one box, which is the whole point of this project, is that you now have games that will, classic games that will last you and your family for a long time, all inside of one box that you can then take camping, you can take to a friend's house. It's all about being travel and going on with it. So now that we have these together, we're going to go ahead and start toolpathing this so we can get this cut out on the CNC. All right. So to do that, I've now got everything I need here. For design's sake, and because I like a curved edge, I'm going to come over and I'm actually going to change this, and I'm going to do a radius edge, and I'm just going to do a simple 1/4 inch radius edge on these. I really like, oops, I didn't mean to click on that. I really like how that looks on a board. It just softens it up a little bit and just makes it look, oops, I need a radius to external. It makes it look just a little nicer, and it also is helpful for sanding, no pointy edges. But I really like that. So now that we've got that, we're going to finish our design. So I'm going to come up to toolpaths, and I am going to pin that so it doesn't go away. And I'm going to start first with my cribbage pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of this, hold down Control. I'm going to remove the items that don't, sorry, not Control, Shift. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to remove the items that I don't want part of the group that I'm creating. So for this, I'm going to create a group of the cribbage holes. I'm going to right click and group. Okay. What I'm basically doing is going around and grouping all of the items that we're going to toolpath together. So I'm going to group all of our magnet pieces because they're going to be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and group those together. And now I've got those all grouped. These are all going to be individual pockets because they're going to be at different depths along with that. So I have the groups that I'm going to do. Oh, and I do need to group the outside profile as well. This just makes it easier and a lot so you know that you're getting the right things when you're creating your toolpaths. So I'm going to create in the order of production of how I'm going to change bits because this is going to be a 2-bit process since I'm using these cribbage boards. So first I'm going to select the cribbage board and I'm going to come up and do a drilling toolpath. Now I'm going to be using a specialized bit for cribbage board. It's called the lightning drill bit. You can get that from IDC Woodcraft here in the United States. But any 1/8 inch bit will do, downcut bit will do fine. This is just specialized because of what it does is it's designed for that high speed of a CNC, and it will drill right down into the board and right back up without having to do steps or peck drilling, which I really like so that I don't have to do that. So my cut depth is going to be 1/2 inch. I'm going to leave that tool as is, and I'm just going to go ahead and calculate, and so it goes ahead and creates that toolpath. So now we're going to be switching over to the 1/4 inch bit, which means we're going to start with our magnets. So I'm going to come over and select pocket. Once I've selected our magnets, I'm going to go ahead and remove this tool because that's not the one we're using, and I'll go ahead and select a new tool. I'm going to minimize this just to help. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 1/4 inch bit from the Jenny line, specifically the 1/4 inch down cut bit. I really like this line of bits because they last a long time and have a great finish. So I'll go ahead and select that. My depth for these is going to be 0.085 for my magnet. And I'm just going to go ahead and click calculate. Now that's going to calculate my my pockets for my magnets. Next, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ungroup this one. We're going to go ahead and pocket our stuff for our dominoes. So the dominoes one was 0.5 when I added a little bit of space. So we're going to go ahead and create the pocket for this. We're going to do 0.5 and calculate that. We're going to come over to our cards. Now our cards, if you remember, were 0.8, which means they're going to go over. So we're going to also, we're also going to do 0.5 for this because we're going to do this section 0.3. So I'm going to go ahead, since this is going to be the same pocket as this one, I'm going to go ahead and select that toolpath, and I'm going to add the pocket for the cards for that. And then our dry erase and our dice were all the same at 0.6. So we're going to go ahead and select those guys. We're going to create a new pocket and do 0.6. Now I could just leave, you know what? I am going to leave them. I'm going to do everything at 0.5 on this side since I'm going to be adding 0.3 of an inch. So we're going to do that. Just because I've decided that I think it'll look a little bit nicer in the final design. And again, this is how you design. You change things on the fly as you go. So we're going to do 0.5 on this side. So all those are going to be calculated. Now I'm going to come over to this side. I will calculate our pocket at 0.3 for this one. We'll go ahead and calculate that. And then next we're going to do our outline. So we're going to close our pocket and we're going to come over and do a profile. And the profile is, since we're cutting this out, we're going to cut it down to 0.75. Again, I'm using that downtown Jenny bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut on the outside of the material so that we get that full size of material. And then next I'm going to add some tabs. So I'm going to come over here, add tabs and edit. And for me, I like just doing them on the side. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some sides. Now you could have the tool or the software do this automatically for you. It's just something I like doing, so I'm going to put them on there myself and add those tabs. Now I'm going to come down here and click calculate. And what I'm going to do is preview all toolpaths. There we go. And this is now a preview of what our box is going to look like. And this is really fun. I think this is going to be a great project for somebody to have all the games that you need all in one box. So let's go ahead, now that we have this designed, we're going to go ahead and save all of these onto a hard drive, or a thumb drive, sorry. So let's go ahead and plug in our thumb drive. We're going to plug in our thumb drive. And now we're going to go ahead and save these. So first of all, I'm going to save them in the order that I'm going to create them on the CNC. So first I'm going to save this file, which is our drill bit. So again, that first bit that we're going to use. So I'll go ahead and click save. My next wave tool post processor is selected. So I'll go ahead and click save. I'll come over and select my hard drive. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this as 1 because it's the first thing I'm doing. I'm going to do 8th because that's how I do my 8th bit that I'm going to be using. And then I'm going to just put crib for cribbage. So that's my first file I'm going to be using. Now the nice thing about this is because all of these use the exact same bit, is I'm just going to go ahead and select them all, making sure that they're all in order of how I want them to cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now I'm going to go and do 2. I'm going to do quart for a 1/4 inch bit. And this just helps me memorize when I'm down on the CNC. And then I'm going to put, I'm just going to put game box. And I'll click save. And now I have the 2 files that we're going to create out on the CNC. So let's go ahead out and run the CNC and create our project.
Okay, we're back in the shop, so it's time to cut it out on the CNC. I have my material. Now I have got a couple of different hold down methods that I use. First of all, I have these clamps that go inside my T-track. So I'll put them in and that way it helps clamp it down. I also use a couple of strips of double-sided tape, so once it gets cut out of the material, it doesn't break loose of those tabs and slide around. So let's go ahead and get these on the CNC.
Once the workpiece is clamped down, I'll go ahead and change out the collet in my spindle for an 1/8 inch bit and put in that lightning drill bit. I'll then go ahead and run the file. I'm going to run it without my dust boot so you can see the bit going and drilling into these holes.
So I'm not going to change the X and Y, obviously, because that's we haven't moved the workpiece at all. So all I'm going to end up doing is changing the bit and then changing out the Z axis, the 0Z. So we'll go ahead and remove the bit and that collet. Put that collet right there. We'll go ahead and grab that, put our other bit back in its container. I can go right back up in my bit storage. Got my 1/4 inch. Get that nice and tight, and that bit is ready to go. I've got my image there. I can see all my specs. And we'll go ahead and start it. I'll record just a little bit without my dust boot on so you can see the bit interacting with the wood, and then we'll go ahead and put the dust boot on for the rest of the build.
This project takes about 30 minutes in total on the CNC, 8 minutes for the cribbage board holes and another 22 minutes for the rest of the cutting with the 1/4 inch bit.
I went ahead and stopped the file so I can put my dust boot on for the rest of this. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of the file. We'll go ahead and put my dust boot back on, and then I will resume my file from my last sent location and start it. So it basically, it doesn't matter that I stopped it. I can restart from the last time I sent a file. Let's finish it up. All right, the CNC is all done. I went ahead and popped off our workpiece, and all it needs now is to do a round over on the top and bottom, pop it out obviously of the piece, and then do a little bit of sanding. So while we do all that, I'm gonna send it over to a segment that I like to call
Sanding Thoughts with Duffey Woodcraft. The very first CNC machine was credited to James Parsons in 1949. Parsons was a computer pioneer who worked on the United States Air Force research project. The research was on how to produce helicopter blades and better aircraft skin quickly and efficiently. In 1976, 3D computer-aided design and computer-aided machining software were included into the CNC machining world for the first time. In 1989, CAM and CAD software then became the industrial standard for machines across the globe. The first hobbyist woodworking machines started in the early 2000s when components like stepper motors and open-source software became affordable and available. Vectric was founded in 2005 by Brian Moran and Tony McKenzie, who aimed at providing accessible, powerful, and affordable CNC software to hobbyists and professionals around the world.
All right, the project is done on sanding, and now it is time to just do the finishing touches. So all I'm going to go do is glue in the magnets and then rub some tung oil on the project, which will finish it up. That'll take about 24 hours to cure, so I'll be back as soon as that's done. Okay, our finished project is all cured and ready to go. So I've put all the game pieces in here. You can kind of see how the layout works. Dominoes, dice, cards, the marker, and the cribbage pieces are in there. I've got the Yahtzee scorecard, which will just sit on top here. Yahtzee on one side. I've got the game 10,000 on the other and a blank spot for the scoring. And then we've got our top with the cribbage piece, or with the cribbage board built in. And then it goes together. You can kind of hear moving around, but they don't come out. And the magnets are strong enough that this thing is not coming apart, which is really great. That's kind of the whole point. And then I just slide to open it up, and I've got it to go. If I was to do this again, the only thing I would change is I might add a little bit of a lip on the outside of this for it to sit in down, so it is guaranteed not to easily just slide with the magnets. But beyond that, it's really, really great. I really like how this project turned out. It's just a simple 8x10 box, which I can now carry with me out to a store to play games at, like a game store, or go to my friend's house, or when I'm camping. I've got all the games built into this one box. Great project to get going. Hey, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming along with this journey with me and doing this class. I want to do a special thank you to the Vectric team for having me part of the Vectric user group meeting. I really appreciate that, guys. If you have any questions about this project, or would just like some advice on game boards or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me directly. It's duffywoodcraft.com. There's a contact section there. You can reach out to me directly via email that way. I recommend doing that. And if you're interested in more projects like this, I also do these on my YouTube channel as well, which is youtube.com/duffywoodcraft. Hope you guys had a great time. Thank you so much again. And until I see you next time, bye-bye.